There is something about rain that feels like a secret we've always known, yet never fully understood. When drops touch the earth, when they linger on the glass of a window, or soak the soil until it smells of memory, we feel it deep. In our bones, that rain belongs to us, and we to it. But have you ever wondered where each drop begins? Long before it falls, before the sky gathers heavy with promise, before the thunder speaks or the soil sighs in relief, every raindrop has a quiet story, inside the unseen heights of clouds, in a sky that holds more water than oceans beneath. Tiny miracles are happening. Invisible vapor, lighter than air, climbs and lingers. Particles wait like seeds of the sky until moisture clings to them and grows, until weight and gravity call it down. The story of rain is not just about weather, it is about cycles, renewal, patience, and return. Tonight, we will drift into that story together, slowly, softly, like mist rising to meet the clouds. And by the time the first raindrop falls in your imagination, perhaps you will already be asleep. Before we begin, take a deep breath and let it out slowly. You've arrived here for a reason, maybe to learn, maybe to rest, maybe simply to hear a voice remind you that the world is gentle if you let it be. If you enjoy stories like this, I invite you to like the video and subscribe, so you'll have more calm journeys waiting for you on the nights you need them most. Share it with someone who loves the sound of rain. And, if you'd like, leave a comment telling me where you're listening from. It's always beautiful to see how many skies this one story can touch. This will be calm, healing, and steady, a blend of truth and poetry. So close your eyes, relax your shoulders, and let the rain begin to form in your imagination. Let's begin to talk about how rain forms in the clouds. Chapter 1: The Breath of the Sky. The story of rain does not begin with thunder, nor with the soft patter against a window. It begins long before the cloud, long before the sky grows grey. In a place we rarely look down at, the quiet waters spread across the earth. Lakes, oceans, rivers, and even the hidden dampness of soil all hold within them the first secret of rain. To understand rain, we must begin here with the unseen breath of the sky. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast ocean. It is evening, and the horizon glows with the last traces of sunlight. The air is warm, soft against your skin, carrying a salty temps that feels eternal. As the waves roll and fold against the shore, something subtle is happening, something your eyes cannot catch. Molecules of water, invisible and weightless, are lifting, carried upward by warmth, rising like sighs toward the sky. This is evaporation, the first motion of the rain cycle, the gentle departure of water from earth into air. It is not a hurried leaving, not a violent tearing away. It is a soft invitation from the sun, a whisper of heat that loosens bonds, releasing water into its lighter form vapor. If you close your eyes and imagine, you might feel it too, the warmth loosening something within you, releasing heaviness, letting it rise, letting it drift. Evaporation begins when sunlight touches the surface of the sea. The sun's light, arriving after its endless journey across space, warms the uppermost layer of water, awakening the molecules that dwell there. Each molecule is a tiny dancer, trembling with energy, and as the warmth grows, some gain enough energy to break free from their liquid companions. They leap upward, slipping past gravity's pull, escaping into the air as vapor. Though invisible, they are countless millions upon millions, ascending every second. rising like an unseen tide. And yet, this rising is not chaotic. It is quiet, like a long inhalation, the earth drawing breath. The oceans are lungs and evaporation. Is their exhale filling the sky with moisture, preparing the air for what is to come? Every time a wave crashes, every time sunlight warms a still pond, every time a forest exhales moisture through the leaves of its trees, the breath of the sky deepens. This is where rain is born, not in storms, but in silence. Consider for a moment how delicate this balance is. Too little heat and water clings stubbornly to the ground. Too much, and it rushes into the air too quickly, leaving the soil parched and cracked. But in its natural rhythm, evaporation moves gently, a patient conversation between water and air, light and shadow. When you walk outside on a warm day and feel the air heavy with humidity, you are breathing in that conversation. You are inhaling the breath of oceans and rivers, carrying their whispers within your lungs. Now, let us walk further into this image. Imagine a still morning after a night of rain. The earth is wet, the grass glistening with dew. As the sun climbs higher, the dew begins to disappear. One moment it lingers, as shimmering pearls on the blades of grass. The next, it is gone, lifted into the invisible sky. That vanishing is not destruction but transformation, a gentle rising of liquid into vapor, joining the larger story above. In that moment, you witness the breadth of the sky at work, turning the small droplets of the earth into the beginnings of tomorrow's rain. Evaporation is not the only way water climbs. There is another breath, quieter, but no less powerful transpiration. Every tree, every blade of grass, every flower on the hillside participates. Plants draw water up from their roots, carrying it through their stems and into their leaves. There, through tiny pores, they release it into the air. You might never notice, but in a forest, countless leaves are exhaling at once. Together, their breath thickens the air, saturating it with vapor. It is as though the forest itself is a great living lung, contributing to the sky's inhale. Picture walking through such a forest on a summer day. The canopy shields you from harsh sunlight, but the air is still warm and damp, holding a sweetness that clings to your skin. What you feel is the exhale of thousands of trees, lifting water upward, joining the great circulation that will someday return as rain. In this way, every plant on earth has a hand in shaping the clouds. Rain is not only the work of oceans, it is also the gift of forests, fields, and meadows, each drop beginning as a sigh of green life. Together, evaporation and transpiration are called evapotranspiration, the collective breath of water and life. This breath, rising endlessly from the surface of the planet, feeds the invisible river of the sky. High above, this river carries moisture, flowing without banks, without sound, a current of vapor that drifts until conditions invite it to transform again. Think for a moment of how astonishing this is, water, which we imagine as heavy and grounded, becoming lighter than air, lifting beyond sight. This is not magic but physics, the simple truth that warmth gives molecules energy, that air holds space for water, that the cycle never stops. And yet, when we think of rain, how rarely do we think of this beginning? We wait for clouds, for storms, for thunder. But rain's story starts in silence, in the soft warmth of sunlight on water, in the hidden exhalations of trees. Let us return now to that ocean at twilight. The waves continue their rhythm, endlessly folding into themselves. Above them, the air thickens with vapor. The sun sinks, and with its fading heat, The rate of evaporation slows, but it never stops. Even at night, even in cold, there is always some water rising. The cycle is ceaseless. Every breath of wind carries with it the invisible presence of oceans. Every cloud you see is born of this breath, every storm fueled by it, every gentle drizzle returning what was lifted. Close your eyes and listen to the rhythm of your own breath. Inhale and feel the air fill you. Exhale and feel it leave. The sky breathes in much the same way, though its lungs are oceans and forests, its rhythm stretched across days, seasons, and millennia. When you breathe, you mirror the sky. You are part of the same cycle. The moisture you inhale once belonged to a distant wave, a mountain stream, perhaps even a tear shed centuries ago. Nothing is lost. Everything circulates. The warmth of the sun is the great conductor of this symphony. Without it, the waters would lie still, bound to the earth, unmoving. But sunlight arrives with patient consistency, releasing water into the air, lifting what is bound, creating possibility. If you imagine each photon of light as a hand, then countless hands touch the sea each day, loosening molecules, setting them free to rise. That freedom is what begins the chain of events leading to rain. Yet even freedom carries responsibility. When vapor enters the air, it does not drift without consequence. It changes the balance of humidity, shaping weather, influencing winds. In tropical regions, where the sun's warmth is intense, evaporation is abundant, feeding towering clouds and daily rains. In colder regions, evaporation is slower, gentler, the cycle stretched over longer spans of time. Still, the principle is the same. Every raindrop that falls must first have risen. Every return begins with a departure. Imagine now a drop of water. Caught in the shallow tide of the shore, the sun touches it, and within it, molecules tremble. One molecule, just one among billions, gathers enough energy to break free. In that moment, it leaves the sea and enters the air, beginning a journey that may take days, weeks, or longer. Perhaps it will rise into a cloud tomorrow. Perhaps winds will carry it across continents before it condenses. Perhaps it will fall on soil, seep into roots, travel through a tree, and only then return to the air as transpiration. Its path is uncertain, but its destination is sure. It will return. All water returns. This is why rain is more than weather, it is memory. Each drop that falls carries with it the story of countless past cycles, countless risings and fallings, countless breaths of the sky. To drink water is to sip from ancient histories, to taste oceans that once touched the earliest life, to share in the endless rhythm of evaporation and return. As you rest tonight, think of this cycle as a lullaby. Evaporation is the inhale, condensation, the holding of breath, rainfall, the exhale. Again and again, endlessly, patiently, the earth breathes through water, the sky breathes through clouds, and you, in your own breathing, are never apart from it. So let the image linger. Sunlight on water, vapor rising, forests sighing into the air. All of it quiet, all of it soft, all of it unseen yet essential. This is where the rain begins, not in storms, not in thunder, but in the stillness of warmth and water, the breath of the sky. Chapter 2. Seeds in the air. The sky is never empty. Even when it looks blue and clear, even when the air feels fresh and open, it is always holding things unseen. Tiny particles drift through the atmosphere, dust lifted from deserts, salt carried upward from the oceans, pollen released by forests, smoke from distant fires, fragments so small they float without falling. They seem insignificant, so weightless we never notice them. And yet, without these invisible wanderers, there could be no rain. Raindrops cannot be born from nothing. Water vapor, by itself, is like a dream waiting for form. It needs something to cling to, something to gather around, a beginning that will allow the invisible to become visible. This is where the sky's hidden seeds come in microscopic particles that serve as anchors for condensation. Scientists call them condensation nuclei, but perhaps it is easier and more poetic to think of them as seeds in the air. For every drop of rain you have ever seen, there was first a seed. Imagine, then, the invisible architecture of the sky. High above, billions upon billions of these tiny seeds drift endlessly, carried by winds that circle the planet. They come from everywhere. A grain of desert dust lifted by a storm, a crystal of salt rising from ocean spray, a particle of ash born of a volcanic eruption, or even microscopic fragments of plants and animals. Each one floats upward, insignificant, on its own, yet waiting for the moment when moisture finds it. Close your eyes and imagine the air around you now. Even in the stillness of your room, invisible particles surround you, drifting without weight. If the humidity is high enough, if the air grows cool enough, vapor could gather upon them, beginning the birth of a droplet. The seeds are everywhere, waiting silently, patiently, for the right conditions. Without them, the sky could be saturated with vapor and still remain dry, still unable to form clouds. It is these seeds that transform vapor into raindrops. Let us follow the journey of one seed. Picture a crystal of salt, born when a wave shattered against rock and sprayed mist into the air. The droplet that carried it quickly evaporated, but the salt remained, so tiny it could float for days, carried higher and higher until it reached cooler air. There, surrounded by invisible vapor, it became an anchor. Molecules of water began to cling to its surface, one after another, a thin skin of liquid forming around it. What was once a particle of salt became something new, the heart of a droplet. This is condensation, the great turning point in the story of rain. It is as though the sky breathes in vapor and breathes out clouds, each exhalation built around these hidden seeds. But condensation does not happen anywhere, at any time. The air must cool, and the balance between humidity and temperature must reach a delicate threshold. When warm, moist air rises, it expands and cools. The cooler it becomes, the less vapor it can hold. Eventually, the vapor must condense, clinging to the nearest seed it can find. That is the moment when the invisible becomes visible, when the air begins to gather into form. You have seen this principle before, though perhaps not thought of it as the same. When you hold a cold glass of water on a warm day, droplets appear. On its surface, the air around the glass cools, vapor condenses, and tiny droplets cling to the glass. The glass is the anchor, just as salt, dust, and pollen are anchors in the sky. Clouds are, in many ways, simply condensation on an immense, drifting canvas. But there is more poetry in this than meets the eye. Think of every cloud you have ever seen, the towering thunderheads of summer, the thin wisps of cirrus high above, the grey blankets of drizzle in winter. Each one began with seeds too small for your eyes, each droplet held together by an anchor you could not see. The grandest storms are built upon the smallest beginnings. The heaviest rains are born of the lightest particles. there is a humility in that truth that even the sky depends on the invisible to give shape to the vast dot. Now imagine yourself drifting within a cloud. The world outside grows hazy, the sunlight diffused into soft, silvery light. Around you are countless droplets, each one no larger than a fraction of a hair's width, each built around its own tiny seed. They float together, suspended by air currents, endlessly forming and reforming. From a distance, they appear as a single shape, a cloud drifting lazily across the sky. But up close, it is a teeming community, millions of droplets anchored to seeds, each one a story of water meeting matter, of the invisible finding form. These seeds do more than simply begin droplets. They shape the clouds themselves. Some particles encourage larger droplets, others smaller. Some gather vapor quickly, others slowly. Salt, for example, is particularly effective, pulling moisture greedily around itself, while dust or pollen may gather more slowly. The mixture of seeds in the air decides whether clouds will be thick or thin, bright or dark, filled with drizzle or waiting to release torrents of rain. In this way, every cloud is unique, born of a particular moment in time and space, a particular blend of seeds drifting invisibly. Pause for a moment and let that image sink in. Every raindrop you have felt on your skin once wrapped itself around a speck of dust, a grain of salt, a fragment of pollen. Each carried with it a hidden story of where it came from. Perhaps the drop that fell upon your face once began around a piece of ash from a distant forest fire. Perhaps another formed on a grain of sand lifted from the Sahara Desert, carried across oceans by invisible winds. The rain is not just water, it is the history of earth and air, gathered and released again. There is something humbling in that realization. When rain falls, it carries with it the memory of fire, forest, ocean, and desert. The sky is not separate from the ground. It is a mirror, lifting fragments of the world, wrapping them in moisture, and returning them to earth, transformed. Every drop is a cycle completed, a fragment of matter that once drifted unseen, now delivered gently back to the soil. Two rivers, to you. Think again of the metaphor of seeds. Just as seeds in the soil need the right conditions, moisture, warmth, and time to sprout into plants, so to do seeds in the air need the right balance to grow droplets. And just as no field of flowers is identical to another, no cloud is the same as the one before it. Each one blooms uniquely in the sky, fed by the invisible seeds that the earth has breathed upward. If you sit by a window and watch the clouds drift, you are witnessing a living garden above you, a garden that grows. From particles too small to see, nourished by vapor too light to hold, and blooming in shapes that wander across the heavens. Some clouds are thin and delicate, others thick and towering, but all of them are alive with these hidden seeds, binding the breath of the earth into visible form. Now, imagine that you are a droplet yourself. You begin as vapor, light and free, drifting unseen. Then you meet a cedar tiny anchor that holds you close. You gather with others, growing slowly, patiently, until you become part of a cloud. You do not yet know if you will fall, if you will return as rain, but you have already become something greater than vapor. You are visible now, part of a shape that drifts across the sky, a witness to the endless cycle of rise and return. It is worth reflecting too on the patience of this process. Not every droplet becomes rain. Some form and evaporate again before they ever fall, vanishing back into vapor, waiting for another chance. Some drift for days within clouds, carried by winds across mountains and seas. Some join with others, growing larger and heavier, preparing for the inevitable pull of gravity. The seeds in the air begin the story, but the ending is uncertain. Rain requires more than condensation. It requires gathering, merging, and the weight of time. Yet without these seeds, the story could never even begin. Without dust, without salt, without pollen and smoke, the sky would be filled with vapor but empty of clouds. There would be no soft blankets of grey, no towering thunderheads, no hindler drizzle, no nourishing rains. The seeds may be invisible, but they are the quiet architects of the weather, the hidden gardeners of the sky. So the next time you see a raindrop slide down a window, pause and remember that within it lies something ancient and small, a fragment of salt from the ocean, a grain of dust from the desert, a particle of pollen from a tree. Without that fragment, the drop would never have existed. The rain you touch is more than water. It is the union of earth and sky, the dance of vapor and seed, the visible born from the invisible. And perhaps that is the deeper lesson hidden in the clouds, that beginnings are often unseen, that the grandest shapes are built upon the smallest foundations. Just as rain depends on dust and salt, so too do many of life's transformations depend on quiet, unnoticed seeds, moments, choices, or whispers that seem small at first but grow into something vast. The sky reminds us that nothing is too small to matter, that even a speck of dust can hold the weight of a storm. Rest now with that image, invisible seeds drifting in the air, patient and quiet, waiting for vapor to gather. Around them, droplets form, clouds bloom, and the sky itself takes shape. Without them, there is no rain. With them, the cycle continues, endlessly, softly, carrying the memory of earth into the heavens and returning it again in gentle fall. Chapter 3. The Gathering Cloud. There is a moment when the invisible becomes undeniable, when what once drifted, unseen in the air, gathers into a body you cannot ignore. That moment is the birth of a cloud. What begins as vapor, scattered and weightless, anchored by seeds too small for the eye, begins to collect, droplet by droplet, until the sky itself wears a cloak of softness. A cloud is not a thing, but a congregation, a gathering of millions upon millions of tiny droplets, each suspended, each part of a greater whole. To understand the gathering of clouds, imagine yourself lying on your back in a meadow, eyes open to the wide blue sky. At first, the air seems empty, endless, but slowly, as the sun warms the earth, vapor rises. Carried upward, it cools, condenses, and begins to cling to seeds floating in the air. At first, it is only a faint wisp, like breath on a cold morning, a thin trace of white against the expanse of blue. But droplets attract droplets, and what begins as a wisp swells, deepens, and grows. Before long, the sky wears a drifting shape, a cloud blooming into existence. A cloud is a paradox, weightless and heavy at once. From the ground, it seems delicate, floating effortlessly above us. And yet, each cloud is a vast collection of droplets, a reservoir of water so immense that, if it were to fall all at once, it would drench the earth beneath. A single cumulus cloud, the kind that drifts like a cotton ball across summer skies, can weigh hundreds of thousands of kilograms, and yet it floats, held aloft by rising air, its weight distributed across countless droplets too small to fall on their own. The gathering of a cloud begins with rising air. Warm air is lighter than cool air, and so it climbs, carrying moisture with it. As it rises, it expands and cools. The higher it goes, the colder it becomes, until the vapor it carries can no longer remain invisible. It condenses, clinging to seeds, forming droplets. One droplet alone is nothing, but when billions form together, they scatter light, turning invisible vapor into visible whiteness. This is why clouds appear, not because water has appeared suddenly, but because it is gathered in a way our eyes can finally see. Think of it like this: the sky is a canvas, and droplets are brushstrokes. One alone is unseen, but together they paint shapes across the heavens. The gathering cloud is a living painting, constantly forming, shifting, and dissolving, its edges in motion, its body never fixed. To watch a cloud is to watch time itself. Drift, to see the unseen currents of air revealed in form. Different clouds tell different stories. Cumulus clouds, thick and white, form where warm air rises quickly, swelling upward in towers of cotton. Cirrus clouds, thin and wispy, form high above, where the air is cold and vapor condenses into ice crystals instead of droplets. Stratus clouds, flat and gray, spread across the sky like a blanket, formed when moist air rises slowly and evenly. Each type is a reflection of the air's movement, temperature, and moisture. Each one a visible record of the atmosphere's invisible patterns. Imagine, for a moment, walking through the sky as a cloud forms. The air grows cooler with every step upward. Around you, tiny droplets shimmer, suspended, held aloft by the gentlest of winds. They gather and part, joining and separating in endless motion. The space is luminous, light scattered through countless droplets, turning the air into a glowing silver mist. To drift through such a place would be to step into a living cathedral, a sanctuary of light and water. The gathering cloud is not just weather, it is atmosphere made visible, a temple of air. Clouds are not static. They are born, they grow, and they die. Their lifetimes may last minutes or hours, sometimes days, but always they are in motion. Rising air feeds them, while descending air dissolves them. Sunlight warms their tops, while cooler winds tug at their edges. A cloud is always gathering or dispersing, never still. Even the largest storm clouds, vast enough to span cities, are temporary things, vanishing as the conditions that sustained them shift. To watch a cloud dissolve is to watch impermanence made visible, the great reminder that nothing holds its form forever. But while they live, clouds hold power. They regulate the temperature of the earth, shading the ground, reflecting sunlight, trapping warmth at night. They are blankets and mirrors, guardians and veils. Without them, the earth would burn by day and freeze by night. Their gathering is not just beauty, is balance. Every wisp, every tower, every layer of cloud participates in the subtle conversation of climate, in the exchange of heat and moisture that sustains life below. The gathering cloud is also the gathering of possibility, for within every cloud lies the chance of rain. At first, the droplets are too small to fall. They remain suspended, carried by air currents, floating together in luminous dance. But as they merge, as they gather into larger drops, the balance shifts. Some will fall back into vapor, some will return to the air, and some will continue to grow, preparing for the inevitable pull of gravity. Clouds are thresholds between vapor and rain, between invisible and visible, between potential and release. Consider, too, the intimacy of this process. Every drop in a cloud touches another, merges with another, exchanges form with another. They are not solitary things, but a collective, each droplet part of a larger whole. This is why a cloud looks solid from the ground, though it is made only of droplets suspended apart. Together they give the illusion of solidity, of form. The cloud is an illusion that is also truer, body made only of gatherings. If you sit quietly and watch a cloud drift, you may feel the rhythm of this gathering within yourself. Thoughts, too, are like vapor scattered, invisible, until they gather around anchors, around memories or emotions, and take form. A mood, like a cloud, is not built of one thought, but of many gathered together. Some clouds drift lightly and dissolve quickly. Others build into storms. The sky outside us is not so different from the sky within us. Both are gatherings, both are impermanent, both shaped by invisible currents. As the day passes, clouds change. In the morning, they may form as wisps, delicate and scattered. By afternoon, warmed by sunlight and fed by rising air, they grow taller, thicker, more defined. By evening, as the air cools and currents shift, they may spread into veils of gold and crimson, dissolving with the fading light. The gathering cloud is also a gathering of time, a reflection of the day's story written across the sky. Imagine now a great plain under the wide sky. At first, only the horizon is empty blue. Then, faint wisps appear, drifting slowly upward. They grow, gathering more vapor, merging into shapes that swell into towers. Soon the sky is filled with cumulus, their edges glowing white in the sunlight, their shadows stretching across the ground. You lie back and watch them drift, their forms changing moment by moment, castles and mountains dissolving and reforming. In their endless gathering, you see both creation and impermanence, both weight and weightlessness. Clouds are storytellers. They tell of where air has risen, where it has cooled, where moisture has gathered. They reveal the path of winds, the warmth of the ground, the invisible dance of temperature and humidity. To read the sky is to read a living book, written in shapes that change even as you watch. And yet, though clouds gather endlessly, each is unique. No two gatherings are alike, no two clouds the same. Every moment in the sky is a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence, never to be repeated, though its rhythm will return again and again. The gathering of clouds is also the gathering of silence. When you look upward, when you let your gaze soften and follow their slow drift, something within you slows as well. Time stretches, the urgency of the ground fades. The rhythm of your body begins to mirror the rhythm of the sky. The clouds remind you that it is enough to drift, to gather slowly, to take form in patience. Not everything must rush, not everything must fall. Some things, like clouds, are meant to linger, to float in quiet presence. So let the image settle, vapor rising, seeds waiting, droplets forming, shapes gathering. Clouds bloom from the breath of earth, from the unseen seeds in the air, from the endless patience of rising and cooling, condensing and holding. They gather not to remain, but to prepare to shade, to reflect, to balance, and someday to release. Every raindrop you have ever felt once belonged to such a gathering. Every storm you have watched began as a whisper of vapor, as a cloud forming quietly in the sky. And every cloud, whether small as a wisp or vast as a thunderhead, is a reminder that even the mightiest forms are born of gatherings too small to see. Close your eyes now and imagine lying beneath such a cloud. Feel the shadow it casts, cool, upon your skin. Watch its edges shift and breathe. Know that above you is a body of countless droplets, each gathered around a seed, each waiting, each part of something greater. Let its slow drift guide your own breathing. Let its remind you of your own softness. The cloud gathers, and so do you, and in that gathering you are already preparing for rain. Chapter 4. The Gathering Cloud. The day begins not with sunlight, but with a heaviness that seems to arrive before dawn, as though the air itself has been preparing all night for what is to come. The land rests beneath a sky that feels too low, too dense, as if invisible hands are slowly lowering the ceiling of the world. The gathering cloud does not announce itself with drama at first. It creeps, it hovers, it deepens in silence. One only notices it by contrast, the way colors appear less sharp, the way the edges of mountains blur, the way the air tastes faintly of iron and dust. For centuries, humans have looked upward at such skies and felt both fear and awe. The gathering of clouds has always carried a dual meaning, the promise of nourishment and the threat of destruction. Farmers welcomed the arrival of clouds because they carried rain, the lifeblood of soil and seed. Yet those same clouds could grow into storms that swept away homes, livestock, and entire fields of crops. The cloud, in its gathering, teaches us that nature holds contradictions without apology. As the hours lengthen, the cloud thickens, layer upon layer folding into the sky like heavy drapery being drawn across a window. From a scientific lens, the gathering cloud is the result of billions upon billions of water droplets condensing around dust, salt, or pollen particles suspended in the air. Each droplet is unimaginably small, yet together they darken the heavens. Alone, each is invisible. Together, they reshape the day. In this, the cloud mirrors humanity itself. Individual lives may seem insignificant, but collectively, they carry the power to alter the landscape of history. The gathering of clouds is not merely an event in the sky. It is a story of tension. The earth below has been breathing upward, warmth rising, moisture lifted, invisible currents threading themselves higher and higher. The sky above, cooler and thinner, resists. At the place where they meet, the drama begins. Clouds are born of difference, of friction, of exchange. Without the rising heat from the ground, no cloud would gather. Without the coolness of the upper air, no condensation would form. The cloud, then, is not a passive drift of white, but an active meeting of forces, a negotiation written in vapor. Children, long before they know the science of it, look upward and sense the story. They point, naming shapes, dragons, castles, ships, and faces, because the gathering cloud invites the imagination. A sky filling with clouds is never empty. It is a shifting canvas where light and shadow dance, where form and formlessness exchange places and seconds. To a watchful eye, clouds reveal movement and rest at once, as though the sky itself cannot decide whether to wander or to wait. As the cloud deepens, sound too begins to change. A meadow beneath a bright sky carries one music, the sharp hum of insects, the bright chatter of birds, the easy rustle of leaves in sunlight. But when the gathering cloud thickens, these sounds soften. Birds retreat to lower branches, their calls shortened and cautious. The insects drone less frantically, as though even their tiny bodies sense what is coming. Leaves no longer flicker, but sway in long, uncertain arcs. The world seems to hush itself. Silence is not merely the absence of sound. It is the anticipation of something larger. The gathering cloud is also a mirror of human moods. How often does the heart, in its quiet hours, gather its own weather? At first a passing thought, a fleeting sadness, a shadow at the edge of joy, then another and another, each one small but accumulating until the whole sky within feels weighted, dimmed, uncertain. We are each of us hosts to our own clouds. Sometimes they nourish us with reflection and depth. Sometimes they storm. The atmosphere outside us and the one within us follow the same hidden laws. Across cultures, clouds have carried symbolism. In Chinese poetry, clouds often signified transition, the impermanence of forms. In the deserts of Arabia, a cloud on the horizon was salvation, proof that life could continue. In medieval Europe, darkening clouds were seen as omens, warnings of divine judgment. The same gathering cloud could be promise or punishment, depending on the eyes that beheld it. Humanity projects its fears and hopes into the sky because the sky is vast enough to contain them. But the gathering cloud is not only metaphor, it is power. As water droplets cluster, they trap sunlight, casting shadow upon the land. Temperature shifts, winds reorganize, the balance of air pressure tilts, sending signals across hundreds of miles. What begins as a subtle gathering can evolve into a chain reaction that shapes entire regions. A storm in one valley may draw rivers into flood. A cluster of clouds over the sea may spiral into a hurricane. The gathering cloud, then, is not to be underestimated. It is the seed of transformation. Standing beneath it, one cannot help but feel small, yet that smallness carries its own wisdom. To be under the weight of a gathering sky is to be reminded that life is not under our command, that for all our structures and plans, the weather of the world moves according to older, greater laws. Perhaps this humility is itself a gift that the clouds gather to remind us that surrender is sometimes wiser than control. Still, the beauty of the gathering cloud must not be overlooked. Painters have known this for centuries. The Dutch masters, in their landscapes, often placed more paint into the sky than the earth, layering whites and greys until the canvas seemed alive. Photographers chase the perfect stormlight, when clouds filter the sun into golden shafts that pierce the horizon. Writers lean on clouds as metaphors because they are rich with ambiguity, never fixed, always in flux. A gathering cloud is both weight and wonder. Imagine standing at the edge of a wide plain. The horizon stretches, empty, until a shadow appears, faint at first. You watch as the shadow thickens, expands, overtakes blue. The cloud rises and folds upon itself, growing in dimension until the sky becomes textured. Light scatters into shades of grey and silver. Beneath it, the land cools, scents sharpen, time slows. The gathering cloud changes not only the sky, but also the ground, the air, the breath of every creature beneath it. Science tells us that clouds influence climate itself. They regulate heat, reflecting sunlight back into space, holding warmth within at night. They are guardians and disruptors, balancing the fragile system that sustains us. Without clouds, Earth would be scorched by day and frozen by night. With them, life finds a temperate middle. Thus, every gathering cloud above us participates in the survival of everything below. They are not mere decoration. They are architecture of existence. In the mythology of weather, the gathering cloud is the threshold moment, the point where the ordinary dissolves into the extraordinary. A clear sky is comfortable but static. A storm is dramatic but consuming. The gathering cloud is the in-between, the liminal space where change is forming but not yet released. Perhaps that is why we feel drawn to it, because we too live much of our lives in thresholds, waiting for what has not yet arrived. As dusk approaches, the gathering cloud reveals its final art, color. When the sun lowers and light cuts at a sharper angle, the thickened sky ignites. Hues of violet, rose, and amber ripple across the underside of the clouds, turning their weight into a tapestry of fire. What seemed heavy now becomes radiant. The paradox deepens. The same clouds that shadowed the earth now blaze with glory. In this, perhaps, lies the greatest lesson, that even heaviness holds light, if viewed from the right angle. And so, the chapter of the gathering cloud closes, not with resolution, but with suspension. The cloud hangs, weighty, luminous, unresolved. It gathers still, holding within it both rain and lightning, shadow and flame. Above us, the sky writes its slow, inevitable script, and below, we learn to read it. The gathering cloud is a reminder, omen, promise, and mystery all at once. We wait beneath it, as humans always have, not knowing exactly what will follow, but knowing that the world has shifted. The cloud has gathered, and with it, so have we. Chapter 5. Rain's return to earth. The story of the sky is never complete without rain. Clouds may gather and drift in endless silence, but at some point their weight insists on release. The gathering vapor, once invisible in the bright air, becomes too heavy for suspension. It turns to liquid, surrendering to gravity. And so, rain begins, not merely a fall of water, but a return, a reunion, a long journey coming home. Rain is never just water. It is memory, transformed. It is mountain snow once melted, ocean breath once lifted, the exhalation of forests and rivers that found their way into the clouds. When rain falls, it carries with it the voices of everything it touched on its wandering path. Every drop is a messenger, and every storm is a conversation between earth and sky. The first drop. The beginning of rain is a moment of tension. Before the deluge, the world grows quiet. Leaves stiffen with expectation, and the air itself seems to hold its breath. Then a single drop falls, a scout of sorts, small but revolutionary. The sound of one drop against a roof, a stone, or a waiting leaf is enough to change everything. That first drop contains in its descent the essence of return. Gravity, patient and unyielding, has always waited for it. What once rose in vapor, through heat and light, is called back down, heavier now, cooled and transformed. It is the story of rising and falling, of letting go. In that way, the first drop is not merely water, it is the acceptance of the cycle. A language of rain. When rain begins in earnest, it speaks. Its language is rhythm, soft at first, like a murmur across rooftops and forest floors, then louder, more insistent, like the applause of a hidden audience. Each surface responds differently. The earth drinks greedily, making no sound at all. Metal echoes sharply, wood softens the tone. Stone answers with a resonance that seems to deepen the sound. This polyphony of rain is never random. It has a kind of order, a choreography in which each drop falls, not only where it must, but how it must. To listen to rain is to listen to the dialogue of countless small impacts of music composed of descent. And though it is ancient, it is never the same twice. No rainfall is a repetition. Each is its own performance, its own unique voice. Nourishment, rain's greatest gift is nourishment. The soil, parched and cracked, opens itself in quiet gratitude as the water seeps through. Seeds dormant for months stir awake. Roots drink deeply, swelling with new strength. Moss darkens into green, and lichen brightens against stone. It is not only the plants that depend on this return. Animals, too, recognize the generosity of rain. Birds spread their wings in delight, shaking off droplets that refresh feathers dulled by dust. Deer come out of hiding to drink from puddles. Frogs emerge, their croaks echoing like celebration. Even humans, in villages and cities alike, look upward, feeling the blessing of the sky touching their skin. Rain is life distributed. Without it, rivers would not run, crops would not grow, and forests would wither. With it, the world flourishes, turning what was dry into what is fertile, what was dormant into what is alive. The memory of oceans. Every drop of rain is, in a way, the ocean remembering itself. The sea, vast and restless, sends up its waters. An invisible vapor carried away by the warmth of the sun. But the journey is not permanent. In time, the sea calls its fragments home. Rain is that call answered. It is the ocean, scattered across mountains and valleys, gathering itself once more in rivers that will return downhill, into streams that flow into bays, into lakes that overflow into tides. When rain falls far inland, it may take years before its waters find their way back to the sea. A drop might nourish a tree for decades, circulating through leaves, sap, and fruit before falling again to the soil. Another might become groundwater, hidden in aquifers deep beneath the earth. Some remain frozen in glaciers, suspended in time for centuries. But eventually, all water is drawn back, pulled toward the horizon where ocean waits. Rain, then, is not just a gift, it is destiny fulfilled, the human bond with rain. Since the beginning of civilization, rain has been regarded as divine. For farmers in ancient lands, the timing of rainfall meant survival or famine. To pray for rain was to pray for life itself. Entire rituals and festivals were devoted to calling clouds and honoring storms. In many traditions, rain was seen as a blessing from the heavens, a sign of favor, a renewal of the covenant between earth and sky. Even now, in an age of irrigation systems and weather forecasts, rain holds a sacred place in human memory. Few things can quiet a room the way the sound of steady rainfall does. It turns people inward, pulling them into reflection, into memory. The simple act of watching raindrops run down a window can stir emotions too subtle for words. Rain has the power to comfort, to wash away, to cleanse not only the earth but also the mind, the storm within. But rain is not always gentle. Sometimes its return comes with violence, as if the sky cannot simply release but must hurl itself downward. With force, storms carry fury as well as grace. Sheets of water crash against the land, rivers swell beyond their banks, and the earth struggles under the weight of too much too quickly. This destructive power reminds us that water is not tame. It gives life, but it can also take it away. Floods wash away homes. Landslides carve through mountains. Entire civilizations have been humbled by rain that would not stop. In these moments, the sky is not gentle mother, but relentless force, reminding all creatures of their fragility. And yet, even in destruction, rain carries the truth of the cycle. The excess water that drowns fields will, in time, become fertile soil again. The rivers that rage will settle into calm. Storms, however violent, always give way to silence. What remains afterward is renewal, puddles and reflections, not all rain. Rushes into rivers. Some lingers in small, quiet places. Puddles form on roads, in meadows, in the hollows of stones. Children step into them, sending ripples outward. Birds bathe in them, fluffing feathers with delight. And for anyone who looks closely, puddles are mirrors, tiny worlds that reflect the sky above. There is something humbling in this reflection, the vast expanse of sky held within a shallow pool of water. In such a sight, the infinite is brought, down to the finite, the grand scaled into the simple. Rain allows us to see the sky not only above us, but beneath us as well, folded into the earth. The scent of rain, there is a fragrance that accompanies rain, a perfume woven of earth and sky. Scientists call it petrichor, a name for the earthy scent released when raindrops strike dry soil. It is caused by oils in plants and compounds in rocks that, when touched by water, rise into the air. But to humans, this fragrance is not chemistry, is memory. The smell of rain stirs something ancient within us. Perhaps it is the memory of survival, of ancestors waiting for the rains that would bring harvest. Perhaps it is simply the deep association of scent with comfort. Whatever the reason, the fragrance of rain is always a reminder. The earth is alive, and it has just been touched by the sky after the rain. When rain finally stops, the world feels changed. The air is cleaner, cooler. Leaves glisten, jeweled, with droplets. Roads shine under faint light, and the edges of puddles ripple with the movement of wind. Silence returns, but it is a different silence than before, softer, fuller, as if the earth itself is exhaling in relief in the distance. Rivers and streams carry away the gift of rain, distributing it across valleys and plains. Clouds break, open, revealing sky. Sometimes, if the light strikes just so, a rainbow arcs across the horizon, the final signature of the storm. As if the sky is sealing its message with color, life resumes. Farmers inspect their fields, children return to play, animals emerge from hiding. But beneath all this ordinary activity lies something extraordinary: renewal. Rain has once again reminded the earth of its abundance, its endless cycle of giving and returning. Rain, as metaphor. Rain is not only a natural event, it is a metaphor woven into human imagination. It represents cleansing, the washing away of grief or sorrow. It symbolizes fertility, the awakening of potential. It embodies longing, the tears of the sky falling to meet the earth. Poets have written of it as sadness, as joy, as renewal. In every culture, rain carries meaning beyond itself. Perhaps this is because rain is universal. Every person, no matter where they live, has stood under rain. It is a shared experience, a reminder of our connection not only to the earth, but to each other. In that sense, rain is one of the most democratic of natural phenomena. It falls without preference, touching rich and poor, young and old, city and wilderness alike. The eternal return. Rain is never the end of the story. It is always part of something larger. What falls today will rise again tomorrow. The puddle that evaporates under sunlight will climb back into the air. The river that swells with rainwater will carry it to the ocean. The cycle continues without pause, without exhaustion. This eternal return is what makes rain sacred. It is not a gift given once, but given endlessly. It is a promise that the earth will not be abandoned, that the sky will always remember. Each drop is proof that nothing is lost, only transformed, only carried forward into the next chapter of the cycle. Rain's return to earth is more than weather. It is the reunion of elements, the fulfillment of longing, the completion of a story, begun in the heat of the sun and the breath of oceans. In its descent, rain teaches us about release, about surrender, about the grace of falling without fear. It nourishes, cleanses, destroys, and renews. It is both gentle and fierce, both gift and reminder of our fragility. And yet, above all, rain is belonging. It is water finding its home again, finding its place in rivers, in soil, in roots, in us. For we, too, are part of this cycle. Our bodies are mostly water, and the rain that falls on our skin today may one day flow within us. We are, in a sense, rain walking for a while on earth. So when the clouds gather and the first drop falls, it is worth pausing, worth listening, worth remembering that every rainfall is an ancient ritual, a sacred return, the sky bending down to touch the earth once more. And so we arrive at the quiet end of this journey. We have followed the story of rain from its first invisible stirrings in the breath of the sky, to the tiny seeds drifting through the air, to the gathering clouds swelling like living mountains, to the miracle of condensation, and finally, to the gentle return of rain upon the earth. What began as vapor, unseen and weightless, became droplets, became clouds, became rivers falling from the sky. And in that falling, the cycle continues, an endless circle that connects sky to soil, leaf to ocean, and us to the wider breathing world. Rain is more than weather. It is a rhythm of life itself. Every drop is history, once part of oceans that cradled the first forms of life, once part of glaciers that carved valleys, once falling upon forests where countless generations of living things grew and disappeared. Now, those same drops land upon our skin, our cities, our fields, and one day they will rise again, beginning the story anew. Perhaps, the next time you hear the soft patter of rain against your window, you will remember that you are listening to an ancient language, a language of movement, of transformation, of eternal return. Rain is not only something that happens to us, it is something we are part of. And in knowing this, we remember that the world is alive with cycles, that nothing is ever truly lost, that even the smallest drop has a place in the grand design of nature. So tonight, as the clouds drift and the skies soften into darkness, let the sound of rain be not just background noise, but a reminder of connection, renewal, and quiet wonder. This has been how rain forms in the clouds. Thank you for listening, for wondering, for letting your mind drift upward into the sky and downward with the falling rain. And as you close your eyes now, may the rhythm of rain guide you toward rest. Soft, steady, eternal. Good night.